everyone. Hi guys, hi there, how are all of you? I hope you all are fine. Well, my name is Yusuf and I'm back on Yusuf Reacts. Well guys, today I'm back with what? Today I'm back with again a very interesting movie review that is there for you people. The movie that we guys are going to be talking about for today is a movie that has a lot to offer. It is a movie that is going to be targeting those bitter realities that we guys don't eventually want to talk about, we guys don't eventually want to discuss. And the movie that we are going to be discussing for today is going to be known as The Last Samurai. Now, Samurai, if you guys have not heard about it, if you guys don't know about it, that was a particular warrior clan that used to be there, which is something that was extremely famous when we talk about the Japanese that are there. It is the most renowned famous clan that fought for centuries for the people of Japan. But this movie is going to be targeting about that particular time when the emperor of that particular place like Japan decided that he wants to now switch on and he wants to now move on. He does not want that the people who have been defending Japan for a very long time are now gonna be defending the homeland of Japan anymore, and he does not want them to be the way they are, as considered by the people at that particular time, that they followed their own particular discipline, their code of conduct and stuff. So he does not want that to be like that. So that is what it is all about. If we discuss this movie, we can see that there are so many things that this movie has to offer. If we have a look at it and if we see what this movie can talk about, before going on to that, this movie starts off with a guy known as Tom Cruise. And if we talk about Tom Cruise is someone who has been responsible, or who is someone who gives us movies that are really hard hitting. They have a subject which is really engaging, and they always have the audience mesmerized with what that thing has to offer. And when we talk about Tom over here, Tom is some particular individual who is personified to be an individual who belongs to the age of 1877 or 1876 to be precise, and he's someone who belongs to America, but he was that particular captain who led an army along with his obviously commanding general, and they killed the real natives of Americans, the Red Indians. And those people were not barbaric or anything like that, but because they had orders, so he followed those orders, killing innocent people. And that is how people have taken over from the individuals who used to be at that particular place. A bit sign of colonialism, but colonialism is something different. Now this movie tells us or teaches us one very important bit in reality that's there. That bitter reality that this movie focuses on is what? This movie focuses on this particular thing, that how people who invaded certain places, they became more dominant than the natives of that particular place. And that is what we guys see. Nowadays, if you guys see that there are people who really chant and really fancy, like for instance, if I give you an example, like Jason Momoa, when Aquaman was released, he really had his tribal dance and stuff like that, but now they fancy it. But before time, when they wanted to take over, they killed those people like anything, those innocent people. When we talk about Japan over here, coming back to what it was, basically Americans is the lands of immigrants, and we talk about the Native Americans, they were literally massacred, and the way they were treated, it really is, history is full of that. So that is the side that most of the people don't want to talk about, but that's a bitter reality. And that is what it was like. Eventually, when we go further and we see this thing up, that he's someone, because of that particular action that he did, he has nightmares, and those nightmares haunt him because he cannot sleep, because of the fact that he followed those orders which were totally not correct. At the same times, they were so disturbing that he eventually has it, and he has it so badly that he gets those nightmares, those sleeps. But at the same time, we see that the leader of the samurai tribe is someone who has a dream. In that particular dream, he sees that there is a tiger who is fighting with the samurais, and that tiger is again and again popping up in his dream. It's a white tiger, and that is something that he sees in his dream, and he is unable to interpret what his dream is all about. Eventually we see this thing up that people from Japan, they pop up on the command of the emperor. They are there, they want services of the Americans so that they can help them out, so that they can be trade that can be signed up. The basic purpose that is there is what, guys? Trade was the basic thing through which they eventually entered into a country, and then they targeted. It goes on when we talk about the people, how they entered the subcontinent. The English eventually had the same plan. They come there, they make people so much, the kings and all the particular people who had that at a particular time, they take the advantage, and eventually that trade becomes the capturing of that particular place. This is how the things were operated. And same goes on over here. That was the plan, but eventually the thing that in this movie we discuss about is about the samurais. We see this thing up that how the samurais are so well disciplined, why were they so much important, and what are the things that make them samurais. So this is what this movie was all about. If we go further into the detail what the storyline is, I'll tell you about that. Who is really unhappy with his actions that he has done in his life. He writes that particular down, which was a very common habit of people back in 1870s, and Tom eventually does that, and he describes all those particular people, and he's so much depressed and so much things that they're inside him. Anyhow, he eventually accepts the offer because he pays him a very handsome amount of money. Based on that particular basis, now he sets to Japan, and when he goes over there, he meets the emperor, and over there he comes across a particular army of the Japanese that is there. Now that particular army of Japanese is literally not trained at all. So his task is what? He needs to train them up so that eventually they can kill the samurais up. But eventually, to his astonishment, he feeds this thing up that samurais don't use any kind of ammunitions that are there. Means they are not fond of using guns or stuff like that. They want to wear those particular armors. At the same time, they want to prefer to use their particular sword. Whereas on the other hand, we see that they have guns and stuff like that. So that is something which was again a very interesting twist that eventually was there, which eventually made Tom realize this thing up, that what is going on. So eventually that is how the things go along. Tom trains them out, but he realizes that they are not trained at all. But because of the fact that the same general who was there, he again commands that they have to go. They go to the particular side where they want to get the samurais done. But eventually, what is the thing that tends to happen? The thing that tends to happen is what? Over there, their army gets attacked. Some of the people there, because they are not well trained at all, Tom eventually, like his general, task was only to teach them, and that's it. They were not going to be there in the battlefield. But Tom, being an individual, he wants to stay there, and he stays there. He fights till the end. Eventually, the thing which happens is this, that all the people who were there with him, they get killed. Tom, on the other hand, is left. And he gets some severe, cords of cuts on his body. Eventually, he's the sole person who is fighting. And when he's fighting, the same flag that he's fighting with, it has the same tiger that samurai's leader saw in his dream. Now that is what makes him realize, and he asks them to leave it. Now over there is a samurai who eventually comes to chop off his head, but Tom eventually kills that particular person. Now when Tom eventually kills that particular person, they take him as a hostage and take him along. When he goes over there, he realizes that they start taking care of Tom. He learns the discipline and the way that the samurais were. He learns how they eventually used to spend their lives. He learns how their culture is, how their society was, how disciplined they are for a particular cause. And that is something that makes Tom even more fascinated towards them. The harmony, each and everything that they possessed was just remarkable. Eventually, the thing which happens is this, that now Tom is wounded. There is a lady who eventually takes care of him. With time, Tom realizes that lady is the widow of that particular guy, that samurai that Tom killed. He feels so embarrassed in himself that again that guilt again comes in him. And eventually with time, Tom realizes that how these people are living, but there is always a language barrier. But over here we see this thing up, that the head of the samurai, he speaks English. He wants to have conversation with Tom, and with time he also realizes all the particular wrong things that Tom has done, and he also realizes his guilt and stuff, and he discusses about him. Now comes the particular time, because of the fact that the temperature over there is that like there is snow, and they are planning this thing up that once the snow is away, they'll leave Tom because they have made him a hostage. And eventually the leader decides that he himself will go to the emperor and ask him to, let go all these particular things and hand over the same responsibility to the samurais, as he quotes that they have been, guarding Japan for more than 900 years now, from one generation to another. But the thing which happens is the opposite of it. Actually, it's the particular emperor's second in command who eventually is not happy. He wants this trade because there is a lot of lucrativeness, money and investment that is coming in Japan, but at the same time he's ignoring his own particular people. The thing which happens is what, that when they eventually take Tom along, they relieve him, and after releasing Tom, the thing which happens is what, that the individual, he goes to the emperor to offer his services, and there's a very tradition that they offer the sword, but he refuses to take his sword, and eventually he's taken into custody. Tom is there. Now Tom eventually has a plan. Tom plans this thing up and he rescues the samurai's head. When he rescues him up, now that is where it means a clear battle against the men who have been hired by the second in command of the emperor and the samurais. Samurais know that they can't defeat it because they are limited in number, plus the others have not only guns, but they also have those machine guns that are there. And that is something that is again very disturbing. Now the thing which happens is this, now Tom is the one who has to decide. First, eventually he decides he'll go back to America, but then he postpones his plan and he wants to fight with the samurais, becoming a samurai. And he wears the same particular red armor that was worn by the individual that he killed. And they eventually go into the battle. The battle is so drastic, so awesome, that eventually it gives you goosebumps, and those goosebumps eventually let you know what basically is this thing all about. It's so emotional and so touching, that all the particular samurais, they eventually get killed except for Tom. Tom kills the same general whose orders he followed at that particular time and killed his own people. And the thing which happens is what, that Tom eventually is the one who is left, but all the others, they eventually get died. And as a particular samurai's leader, they have a custom that like if they are not able to finish their particular job, and they do what, they take their own life as an honor, and he does that, and that's how the thing is. But then when the treaty is almost about to be signed between the emperor and the people from the United States of America, Tom pops up with the sword of the samurai, and he tells him that how eventually he should have stepped up, how the things should have gone on. Tears start going from his eyes. The emperor eventually feels sorry about the loss that he has had, but now it's too late. Now the thing that we eventually discuss or we see from this particular movie is what, guys, that with time there are a lot of things in history that have happened, especially with the people who were the natives of those particular lands, how invaders came, how they conquered it, and how eventually the thing happened. Samurais, they were eventually really remarkable people, but their end clearly shows that being loyal to a particular thing can eventually become a cause of your death. It simply means this thing up that the emperors in the past, they became too selfish and too mean and arrogant that they did not take care of their people. Anyhow, this is me, Yusuf, saying goodbye to you people. I hope you liked my review on it. If you guys liked it, kindly do share my videos, do like them, and this is me, Yusuf, saying goodbye guys. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.